Shador Sanders now has a Rolls-Royce SUV. Man, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. Shador Sanders has a Rolls-Royce SUV now. I guarantee you the National Communist Association of America, a.k.a. the NC2A, is just hating this. It is one of the greatest bullseye targets that people will be coming after Deion and that program. I'm going to make a prediction to you. The NCAA and other people are going to try to turn in Colorado for recruiting infractions and for paying student athletes. You watch. That's how they got SMU. You know how they got SMU back in the day on the death penalty? Texas, Houston, A&M, Arkansas, all those Southwest Conference schools were like, wait a minute. Where did this thing come from? Colorado overnight? It's ranked 12th? Wait a minute. What's going on here? Has to be some illegal recruiting stuff. Oh, yeah. You got your star quarterback driving a Rolls Royce. In college. Oh, my God. The stuff I did back in the day was illegal. I drove a Corvette, had 1 mile on it. You weren't going to not have me. What do you think Big Sills is going to be driving around a Pinto or a Duster? Big Sills that wasn't going to work for me at Miami. I had a red Vet. I've posted pictures of it. My first car I ever owned was a Corvette. Honest to God, this is how I got the car. This is how I got the car, man. I go in, I leave my dorm room. I look and I go, whose car's that? I see a note in there. I can't say the name because he gets mad. Okay? And I looked in there and it says, congratulations, here's your car. It was a Corvette, brand new. Oh, it's fantastic. I so love that Shador gets, way to go. Man, they hate what this guy's doing. Get this, a guy like Jason Whitlock hates that. He hates that. You would think Jason Whitlock would be rooting for him. He's rooting against him. Can you believe that? I so am glad. I'm so glad this guy is able to do that. Oh, my God. That's such an FU thing. You're driving around with a Rolls Royce and you're playing the way you're playing. Oh, man, I love that. Good for you, Shador. You should have made it a Bentley, though. I'm more of a Bentley kind of guy. Okay? I would much rather have seen you in a Bentley than see you in the Rolls. Congratulations. By the way, my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, my weekly ranking, my top 10 NFL teams. We're going to get to that here in a minute. Hey, think about that, Tone. Whitlock isn't someone my dad would vibe with. I'll let you cook on that. Hey, I'm just saying, dude. So my wife comes downstairs and she's like, are you listening to Jason Whitlock attacking Deion Sanders and Shador Sanders? I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. You should be rooting for these guys. You should be rooting for them. I don't get it. He thinks, get this, he thinks because he's black, he gets to attack him. He thinks he's using his race to attack him. It's really disgusting. It's disgusting. It totally is. It's disgusting. You should be rooting him on, man. Don't get it. For what? Winning and turning around a program? Well, he's doing it in Deion's way. Remember something. As I said to you before, Yale, when you do something different out of the norm and you don't go by the way of everyone else, okay, you're going to be attacked. Okay? Okay? Whitlock does that for every black celebrity. Hey, man, one thing, Jeff, that Whitlock doesn't get, this guy tears down African-American icons who are role models. Hey, I don't like LeBron James for some of the shit that he does. He's been an ambassador to the NBA. He's been a tremendous sportsman. Some things I don't like about his politics, but at the end of the day, LeBron James has been one of the greatest things ever happened to American sports. He's never been in trouble. He's shown you how being a mobile athlete, everyone's doing it now, and he's a billionaire. What's the hate about that? What's the hate about that? I mean, you hate the guy for what? Okay, because what? He's not Jordan. You know, hey, by the way, you know, I heard a debate today about Patrick Mahomes. Before I get to my top 10 list, I heard Philly 500 too at the bottom of the hour. You know, I heard a debate about Patrick Mahomes, and Bayless threw this out there. You know, let me show you how somebody who likes to move the goalpost on such. So Bayless was asked the questions about Mahomes. Dan, do you still have your vet? Great show. Hollywood, no. I bought a Maserati and then I bought a Porsche after that. So that thing was long gone. So listen how Bayless changes the argument because he likes his certain athletes like Brady and Michael Jordan, okay? So when asked the question, could Patrick Mahomes, you think Patrick Mahomes could ever get into conversation of being the GOAT quarterback in NFL history? Do you guys think Mahomes wins a couple more Super Bowls, what have you? Do you think he could be in the conversation where you would look at him and go, he's in the conversation of being the GOAT when it comes to the greatest quarterbacks of all time? Niner goes, no, but top 5. Yes. Well, you know, Bayless said this. He goes, well, you really see him winning 6 Super Bowls in Kansas City? You know, Keyshawn Johnson and Richard Sherman were like, no, I don't see that. He's not going to win 7 Super Bowls. He's got 2 now. You need 5 more. I don't even see that. No, I don't see that. Well, we gauge everything by Super Bowls. That's how we look at the greatest. You know what my comment would be? Well, if that's your metric, how come you never put Bill Russell in that conversation? He's got 11 NBA championships. He almost doubles Jordan. How come you exclude him? If it's solely on championships, why isn't Russell's name ever brought up? If we go by the metric of championships, the greatest North American athletes of all time, and you're gauging them on championships, how come you don't go like this? Well, so what I'm saying is this. You move the yardsticks on the debate when it comes to Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Mahomes versus Brady because you're using championships, but it doesn't fit. The Jordan championship conversation doesn't fit because that's a team award. Some of you like to bring up, well, Jalen led a team to the Super Bowl. That's a team accomplishment in some people's eyes. Russell's never brought up in the conversation of the greatest player of all time, yet he's the greatest North American champion in American sports. No one has won more than 11 titles in any sport, in any individual. How come he's not the greatest American team sport champion? Jordan changed the game? What game? Jordan didn't change shit. Bird and Magic did. My point is, that's why Wilt is the greatest basketball player of all time. There's no debating it. He has records. You know why no one brings Wilt up? Because everything Wilt did was like fantasy. Was like nobody's scoring 50 points a game and 25 rebounds a game in the same season. No one's doing that. 82 games, Chamberlain averaged 50 and 25. Nobody's doing that. No one's coming close to that. It'd be hard-pressed to score 40 a night. And you got the three-point rule. Get this. You got the three-point line, and you still can't do what Wilt did. So when the conversation about the greatest player, I think it depends who you talk to. Who's the greatest NFL player of all time in your eyes? This will be interesting. Who's the greatest NFL football player of all time? Who would you say? Who's the greatest football player that you've ever seen? Jim Brown. Brady? Barry Sanders? Rice? I'm Walter Payton? LT? Bo Jackson? See what I'm saying here? That conversation on who the greatest NBA guy or who the greatest NFL guy is, it can't be answered. It depends who you're talking to. So we may look at Mahomes down the line and go like this. He is the greatest. And with free agency being the way it is today, Shooter goes no free agency and only 8 teams when the Celtics had 6 Hall of Famers on the roster is why no one takes Russell into the modern day in his titles with more weight. So if you have less teams, means you have more talent condensed. Just because you have more teams, Shooter, doesn't mean you have a strong league. Look at the NHL. The NHL crippled itself by expansion. Baseball has crippled itself by expansion. You got pitchers on pitching staffs that have 5 ERAs today. When I was a kid growing up, if you had a 5 ERA, you were an A-ball. You were an A-ball. Nobody had 5s ERAs back in the day. Now you have a whole pitching staff of people with 5 ERAs. You water down your league when you do stuff like that. Now you have, look at a quarterback playing today. Dude, when people go like this, well, there's more teams today and free agency makes it difficult because rosters change every year. I think it was an interesting debate, but you can't see, I don't think you can use championships as a metric on who's greater than the other guy. To me, the greatest football player I've ever seen honestly, man, I can't pick between LT and Reggie White. I just can't pick between. Those are the 2 greatest players I've ever seen, and they never touched the ball. Jerry Rice is the greatest offensive weapon of all time. But in my opinion, I think it's Lawrence Taylor. I've never seen, every time those 2 players stepped on the field, no matter what the score was, they killed everybody in front of them. No matter if they won or lost, you couldn't block them. And maybe it's because I'm a defensive guy. They just, to me, they're the greatest football players I've ever seen. I mean, just the greatest. Impacted games, changed the way the game is played. Like when you played against the Eagles with Reggie, you were like this. Where's 92? I mean, certain players, you know the numbers to. 32, Jim Brown. 80, Rice. 56, Taylor. 92, Brown. I mean, you knew certain players' numbers. You didn't really have to say their names. 23, Jordan. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just that conversation's kind of weird. JJ Redick said Russell played against custodians. He may have, but he dominated his era. And that's what Jordan says. How can you talk about who the greatest is? You dominate your era. Now you're ripping a guy for playing in an era. You're just looking for shit. You're just looking for shit. All right, let me get to my list here. Philly 500 will join us at the bottom of the hour here. I'm going to do my top 10 teams first before I do my quarterback list. Okay? And obviously, this is kind of like a college poll that I do each and every single week. And I put a top 10 together, and here are my top 10 NFL teams. Number 10, I like the Seahawks team. I like the Seahawks. They rebounded. They're well coached. They've got a lot of good personnel on it. Geno had a comeback game, threw for over 323 yards, righted the ship. I think Seattle's going to win a ton of games this year. Number 9, I got the Saints here. They weren't great last night. 2017 victory, they weren't great. Well, the Eagles haven't been great. You're finding a way to win. That's a damn good-looking defense. Saints have a damn good-looking I think they're going to win a ton of games. By the way, if you really want to put it out there, you know, the NFC South I thought was going to be – I tell you this, though, Yale. One thing I have to say about the NFC South, they may not have a lot of superstar players at the quarterback position in that division, but the Bucs, the Saints, the Panthers, and the Falcons, there's some pretty good-looking defensive groups in that division. I mean, out of the gate so far, there's some good defenses in that division down there in the NFC South. Okay? I mean, Saints have one of the top defensive units, or I should say the Saints have one of the top defensive rosters in the entire league, in my opinion, right now. Number 8, I know it was a setback. I got the Lions here at number 8. Can I tell you my issues with the Lions? I think the Lions have to figure out how to handle success. You know, I think they got to handle success. They got to learn how to win. And they got to see, it was a 2 up and down week. You got, hey, you know, you go into Kansas City, you beat the defending champions, right? Then you turn around and you don't play your A game. Was that to be expected? I think so. Especially with a young football team that's still learning how to win. You know what I'm saying? They need to learn how to be consistent, is my take on these guys. They got to be a little bit more consistent. 7, I got the Bills here. I thought they took care of business against the Raiders. It was a well-called game by Ken Dorsey. And there is no question there was some coaching going on in the game between the Jets game and the Raider game. And there is no doubt they went to Josh Allen and they told Josh Allen, do you know Josh Allen? I think he averaged 4 yards a play or 4 yards an attempt. It was one of like the lowest numbers since he's been a quarterback in Buffalo. What's that tell you? Well, we're not going high turnover plays here. So I think they dialed him back in. I mean, he threw for 275 yards, I think it was, 274, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They had him on a tight leash. They had him on a tight leash, in my opinion. And it looked good. Outside of that opening drive that the Raiders had, I don't think the Raiders really did anything. Okay? Number 6, I got the Chiefs here. Took care of business against Doug and the Jaguars. This guy has nothing on that offensive side of the football. Pacheco's not bad. He's getting better. Their O-line's okay. But, man, Patrick Mahomes, who just got a $210 million contract extension, and there's Lee Steinberg, his agent, pulling a Warren Moon on everybody. Did you see that little clause in the contract? He could never be paid lower than whatever the number is of the quarterbacks in the NFL, which means this. Every year, Patrick Mahomes' contract gets redone. Patrick Mahomes will most likely never be the highest paid player in consecutive years. But you know what he will be? Patrick Mahomes will be and have his contract redone, just like Warren Moon. Lee Steinberg did that move too. For Warren Moon was never the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But you know what he had in there in the contract? He had in the contract that Warren Moon would never be paid lower than the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. So Moon sat at 3 all the time. So when Elway and Marino and Montana and all those guys got their contracts redone, Moon had his contract redone each and every single year. I got the Ravens at 5. I got the Eagles at 4. Dolphins have looked sensational on both sides of the ball. I got them at 3, and I got the Niners at 2, and the Cowboys 1 right now. Now, again, okay, this is obviously going to go up and down because of the war of attrition. And the Eagles, unlike a year ago, have been hit with the injury bug, especially in the secondary. So, as we were talking with Barrett in the last hour here, it just looks different right now. There's a lot of things that they're working on, in my opinion, right now to right the ship and to get this thing back on track again.